Okay, I want to give a quick update to my Dyson Swarm, my solar sails, collecting energy. I've just kind of letting things run. I've expanded the bus a little bit. I made a new blueprint of the full bus, so next time when I stamp this down, I can just stamp the whole section down. I lowered my solar sails to the ground so that my rail ejectors can just grab them out of there. I'm having some small problem um, with solar sail production. I've got this set for what, 30, 60 a minute, so every second there should be one coming out. I've gone ahead and upgraded some of these buildings to the next level, the Mark IIs, and you can set up a mall to do that, or a little sub factory. So I've got stuff backed up. Still just not 15 a minute, so that's 30. It's 45 a minute. It's not quite 60 a minute. So I'm gonna come back at some point and readjust this, because I might have to set this up for like 120, because as you can see, I've got plenty of ray receivers on the planet. If I hit M, I've encompassed the entire globe with ray receivers. Isn't that cool? That's what I'm talking about. I got my nice Dyson Swarm, 3 different rings, looking awesome. That's just so cool. And if you want, you can hit the F11 button to hide the HUD. If you want to take a screenshot, take a screenshot. Use it as your wallpaper. F11 again, F11 again. F11 hides things. If I wanted to take a screenshot of this, I could hit F11. It's going to hide the HUD, the heads-up display. If I hit F11 again, it's going to hide my robot, my mecha. Hit F11 again to bring it all back. Just cool stuff. So I've got a ring of ray receivers, 1 row around the whole globe. So I am constantly, if I look at my power, I'm constantly getting energy. There's very little fluxation. Is that a word? In the power that I'm getting, and it's good. I've got way more than I actually need, but that's what you want. You want to have more power coming in than you're actually using. I could actually, let's just start deleting these, because I'm not going to need these solar panels. And I can use these again on other planets, so it's not like these are just trash items. But as I go out and explore other planets and set up for additional resources, I can use those solar panels. Let's double check to make sure I just didn't disconnect. Okay. So I'm still feeding into the network for my solar ray receivers. It's just so cool. It's firing off. It's shooting the solar sails into their orbits. It's just so cool. F12 if you're in Steam to grab a screenshot. Cool. I've also gone up to our smelting planet. I grabbed the whole stack, or as much of the foundations as I could as were made. I actually upgraded the foundations. I added some more routes and some more logistic systems to get stone where I needed to. But I've ringed the whole planet, and we come right back over to where oil is being produced. And this is another example of why you want to have some of this stuff at your equator. I can fit a heck of a lot more of these ray receivers at the equator than I could at the poles, for one. And 2, poles aren't going to be in direct ray reception from our sails, so they may not be as effective. So again, this goes back to planning out a little bit ahead of how you want things to run in your world. And I have been, as I can, as I think of it, I kind of let this pile up. Red's always having a problem. Let that pile up, and I have been increasing my solar life so that my solar sails last a little bit longer. And you notice when I'm up here looking at my tech tree, I got all kinds of information. You can peruse this at your leisure and figure out, logistic drone flight speed and their drones carrying capacity, logistic vessels, all kinds of weird stuff. You can look at all that stuff. Another thing I wanted to cover, talking about Dyson Sphere power, is I remembered where it was that I was looking for before. If you hit Dyson Sphere on the lower left or hit the Y button, it'll bring up your Dyson Sphere, and you can add up to 20 different orbits if you want to just cover this thing in a swarm. The other thing you can see here is on the right side is a lot of information about the power of your swarm. So our solar sails in total, we've got almost 7,000 solar sails that we've got there, and we're adding to them slowly. I don't know if you can see that, it's almost to 7,000. Here you can see the satisfaction. The requested power is 1.13 gigawatts, which is the orange. The blue ring next is the generation of the Dyson swarm. They're only generating 245 megawatts, and they're sending that back to us. And then we got a Dyson shell, which we haven't even scratched the surface of yet. We haven't even looked into that. And so here's the lifespan of your solar sails. Things are going good. Solar sail status statistics being absorbed. 7,000, so we're climbing. Everything's looking really good. Really good. Lots of fun. Just cool stuff. Auto saving. Can't see it because it's straight up. Sorry, that's a hot mess. What if I zoom all the way in and look up? There we go. It's just so cool. So cool, in my opinion. So yeah, so that's some updates I've been doing. I'm just trying to keep up with the neighbors here, the Joneses. Just trying to get more production out. I'm gonna have to move some stuff around. I've doubled my plastic output. I've upgraded some of these buildings. I'm really concerned about this. I really need a lot of these green engines, but I'm just not making enough. So I may dismantle this and double it or something to use a calculator to get. You can look at your belts, and when you hover over it, it's going to give you some information. The yellow belts or Mark 1s transport 6 items per second per belt segment. The green, the Mark 2s, transport 12 per second, and the blues are 30 per second. I really like that 30 per second. So if I can get my productions of things to match the blues at 30 items per second, what is that? 30 per second times 60 second, that's 1,800 units per minute. That is 100% overkill on anything, but as you can see, I've got green lines that I want to upgrade all this to blue eventually, right? And I want to keep them full. I want to keep them fed. I want the consumption to be a fraction of the production of a lot of this stuff. So it's nerd stuff. It's late game stuff. It's nothing. It's working, and we're in a chill playthrough. We're not hurting for anything. We're okay. We're just having fun. One thing I did do was I went to the smelting planet, and I set up a production to do magnetic coils, because locally it was not able. I was just not keeping up. Just wasn't happening. So let's go take a look at that real quick. That's so cool. So cool. And we don't even have the Dyson sphere going. We don't have a shell, a hard shell going. We're just collecting energy. And you can fly through them. It's just neat stuff. Electric coils, magnetic coils, that's what we're going to check out. So just another idea of what you can do in the game and kind of think outside of the box for some of this stuff. I went ahead and I added a fourth ILS and kind of use it as its own little hub of production. I set it up so that it's gonna store magnetic coils, magnets, iron ore, and copper ingots. And I just left everything local. Remote supply, local supply, I just left these default. So what I'm doing here is I've got some miners that are bringing in some iron ore, and they're feeding in, and that's feeding right back out to a line of magnet production. It's feeding right back into magnets, or right back into the ILS. And then I just brought a line of copper ingots from over here. It's not hurting. It's got plenty of feed. So I brought a line into here so that we can just send these items out this line. So I'm feeding out some copper and some magnets. And then I've got some Mark II assemblers that are going nuts making magnetic coils that are feeding right back into the ILS. And then on our home world, that's where I have that third ILS set up to demand the magnetic coils. So I can very easily keep this just going. Now, another thing to think about as we start tearing down or going through our iron veins is I can start planning ahead with putting, if I wanted to, I can put another ILS here and have this to receive iron ore from all the other planets that I can just set up for mining planets and use this as a home base to receive and smelt and do stuff. And then obviously feed this, run a belt into a line or wherever I need it to go. So stuff to think about for the future. Yeah, I want to delete that because it was just for an example. Stuff for the future. The other thing I did over here real quick, I want to try to keep this short, is I was having a problem. I want to come here and just grab a ton of foundations. But I'd love to have two large storage chests. The problem that I was seeing was like, oh my gosh, we're not getting enough stuff. You got plenty of iron. It's the stone that's the problem. Iron's backed up. Stone is the problem. So I added. I saw that these three are not producing enough stone to get me going. So I added a planetary logistics system, a PLS, here to demand stone. And then on this planet, there's only one other place that I could find that had stone. And it's just over here on the other side of the pole. So I just set up some miners. And I set up the miners to feed into here. And it's already full. The only problem was I only have 12 local planetary system. You see how slow they are? They're slow. I mean, they're getting the job done, and this is not a mission critical. This is not a high priority. This is not a high demand product. It's just one thing I wanted to do is I want to come over here and just get full of foundations. But it's working. It's fine. It's making them. This is not feeding into anything else. This isn't like our iron ingots. copper ingots that we need for other places. So there's a lot of work to be done, which is something weird to say in a game that you're trying to have fun in, but there still is a lot of work. I want to have, you know, down here, I could set up, this is going to be a perfect example of this right here. I could put down, give it some, just, you know, right here. I could put this down and then make this, I'll have to change the path at which this feeds. Actually, I don't even need to do that. I don't even need to do that. I can just set this up to demand. Yep, remote demand. This is already set up, so what am I? I'm just stupid. This is already set up. And if I want to double this, I can just add this entire section here. I can just copy this, copy it. I can hit V to paste, R a couple times to rotate it if I wanted to, right? And just stamp this down, and now I've doubled my production for whatever you need. So just some tips, just some upgrades that I've been doing, getting things going. Now, next what I want to do is I want to set up an orbital collector. I've never made these before, but what you do with this is you set up you put these in orbit around gas giants, which we have one right next door to our home world, and this should ship, and I've never used it, but it should ship according to its description here. It's going to collect fuel and gases from that planet and ship it back to wherever we want, right? So that's what I'm setting up next, because I really like the idea if I can collect hydrogen and other gases from a gas giant and not have to worry about oil production being dependent on that, I'm going to be just so much happier. So that's where I'm going next. Stay tuned.